What's going on, guys? Thanks again for visiting my channel, and today I have this cute little light from SUTEFOTO. This is actually a 100 watt, not only CCT, but it's also RGB. This is the SUTEFOTO P100 RGBWW. Stay tuned, don't go anywhere, I'll be right back. And the usual disclaimer, SUTEFOTO sent me this light for me here to test it out. I don't get paid to say anything here, nobody's sponsoring this video, and all my opinions are my own. So I'm gonna actually include all the specifications right here, so you're welcome to pause the video to see all the specs of this light. It comes in a very nice case, which features also Velcro here for you to put a softbox, whatever you want. Inside the case, you're gonna find a reflector, which comes with a protective shipping on the bottom. The light itself, which comes wrapped in a white plastic. A pretty decent power cord, about 10 feet long. And also 24 volt 5 amp power supply, which I definitely recommend that you buy this little padding for furniture here. Lowe's sells this. The brand name is Soft Touch. And it also comes with a Velcro for you to wrap this power supply around the light stand. And this is why, again, I recommend that you actually buy this so it doesn't slide anywhere. Now take a look at the size of this little light here as far as portability goes. Not to mention this has a Sony NPF battery all built in here. There's no plates, no cabling. You just install the battery here, power on the light, and good to go. And take a look at the size of this remote here. This is the remote that I'm actually using to shoot with my Canon R3, and this is the palm of my hand. Now I'm gonna compare here with the actual remote. It's pretty much an inch shy here, and the height of this light is actually the size of the remote control here. So everything is compacted here. It has a bunch of features. Now let's talk about the fan noise of this light. Actually, what fan noise? And also to show you the fan noise, I'm using a separate track under the actual audio on the timeline to show you guys how the actual fan sounds like. There's no compression of any kind, so anything low or high is gonna be remain the same level. So the light is actually off, and there are two lights right here. Those are two SL60Ws modified to a nocturnal fan, so they're nearly silent, pretty much silent, so you can hear anything. Check this out. Okay, quiet, right? Now I'm gonna be powering this light on. You're gonna be very pleased with this one here. And the P80 is also as quiet as this fan. And let's turn on the light. And that's the actual fan noise. So the microphone, as you can see, it's right here, right in front of my face, pointing about 10-15 inches from this light, and this is what you hear with the light right here. And then when I actually place the light on the back there with the softbox, now you're gonna gain another 4 or 5 feet of distance, so you know this is not the proper place for the light to be for an interview. So just to give you an idea here, so I'm gonna remove the light, and I'm going to amplify the sound here. And this is all you hear. So if you put the light right here, you hear absolutely nothing. So, and even if you set this light to 100%, the fan RPM is not going to change, it's not going to get louder, it's going to remain this way here, which is super, super quiet. And by the way, the actual airflow blows this way here, not from the top here. So you can actually set the light to 100% all the way, the fan still remains the same. And just to let you know, the entire construction of this light, everything from top to bottom, from left to right and front to back, including this whole assembly here, everything that you see is made of plastic, but this light doesn't feel cheap in any way because I actually had to double check to see if this actual bottom part here, the part that attached to the stand, is actually made of metal. It was actually plastic, but you know, it took me a few seconds to even find out because I almost thought this thing was made of metal. And also the way they arranged the LEDs here is pretty cool. As you can see on the CCT, you have this nice little ring that shows the CCT warm and the cold lights, and also the way the RGB lights they are placed, which is pretty interesting. On CCT mode, the range here is huge. It ranges from 2800 degrees Kelvin all the way to 10,000 degrees Kelvin, and of course the brightness ranges from 0% to 1% increments all the way to 100%, and of course it features a green magenta correction. And on the back of the light here is pretty simplistic. You have the DC input, 4 buttons, which is the CCT, the RGB, the effects, and also the channel and group, the brightness knob, and the actual color temperature knob, and the power switch. I'm sure you guys are pretty careful with your gear, especially that, you know, when you add components, camera, lights, and audio and everything at the end of the day can cost a lot of money. But even though this light is made of plastic, I don't see the slightest possibility of this thing breaking unless you drop from, you know, upstairs to the ground, or if you try to hook up a modifier of this size here that barely fits on the frame. This is the 120-inch modifier, which is not really designed for lights of 100 watts or less. Every time I use something like this here, I'm using at least with the 250 or 300 watt light, or even 600 watts. Otherwise, it's not going to work because the light has to cut through all the diffusion here, plus the depth of the softbox. So if you're actually using things that make sense, such as the parabolic or little softbox like this size here, 24, 26 inch, this is what it's recommended, in my opinion, for a 100 watt light. Not too long ago in this channel, I have reviewed the SUTEFOTO P100, which is also an RGBWW and all, but this light, not only it is 20 watts brighter, it's actually being improved a lot of things here, because the P100, you need a plate and also a little cable to connect from the battery output to the thing under here. So this particular light, all you have to do is to insert 2 Sony NPF, whatever size they want, and the light is gonna power on. To power this light on the field, it requires 2 Sony NPF, and the big ones, the 970, and it's not going to work with just one Sony battery because it's 100 watt lights. And I actually have this battery here, which measures their own gauge, and I'm gonna be leaving the link in the description because I'm sure you guys wanna know where I bought this from. When you're running these lights on battery, you can actually go from 1% increments all the way to 80%, which is pretty generous. Most lights is gonna limit you from 50% or even less. So you can go all the way to 80% here. And the reason why it's locked to 80%, because don't forget, this type of batteries here, such as the Sony NPF series, is designed primarily for camcorders, which draw about 8 to 10 watts. This is actually a 100 watt load on this battery, so this is why it's always limited here. The fan is always spinning, but the 80% again is because of that. Now the great thing to see here, when you install the battery, don't worry, your battery is not going to be ejected because it features a locking knob. So before you eject the battery, make sure you press this knob. And with this light the way it is, without any modifiers, no reflectors or softboxes, you can actually tilt this light all the way from here, all the way down there. And you notice by the noise here, this thing has teeth, which is great to ensure that your softbox is not going to droop or sag. So once you stop right here, it stops. There's no need to over tighten anything. And again, this is plastic, but it is a very rigid plastic here. So almost on the palm of my hands, I have a 100 watt light, which is incredibly lightweight and so compact. Whatever it is that you're doing as far as run and gun goes, whether you're shooting a wedding or a movie scene, especially those scenes that, you know, somebody's on the hall, and you have your light like following the subject with the camera, so the exposure keeps the same exposure. So this thing is extremely light. Put a little softbox here, whatever you want to do, a reflector, you know, this is awesome. So when it's time for you to want to take this light outdoors, even though this is a relatively inexpensive light, they thought of everything. The last thing that I want to do is to take this outdoors, summertime especially, with 150 bugs crawling all over the place here, which they're either going to get burned or stained or damage your LED. It comes with a front element glass protection here, which means your LEDs are safe. So you can actually use this light outside with an open reflector, or use it as a bare bulb, or whatever it is you want to do, your light is protected. To control this light remotely, there are 2 ways to control this light. You can actually purchase a separate remote control for this light, or you launch the app, which, by the way, to download the app, the name of the app is SSLED. So launching the app, I have all kinds of things here from SUTEFOTO. Tube lights, the P100, the P100, and the other light that I forgot the model. It's like one of those little square panels. So everything is in here. So I have the light here already paired with this application. I'm going to delete so you can see how easy it is to start everything. And every time you open this application, nothing freezes, nothing crashes. It just works, just like the Apple II lights. So I'm gonna delete here, which, by the way, says delete. It's supposed to be delete. Love that. So to add this light back here, on top right, click on where it says add device, and then on the bottom click add to my devices. So as you can see, I have several devices listed in here. So to find out which light is what here, not only you can actually rename by clicking the little pencil here, you can actually rename to whatever name you want. For example, you can actually rename this light to the P100 RGB and all. Click confirm, and it's named as P100 RGB. And then you click in here, the thing instantly connects. Many videos that I've done in the past, I usually include a full tutorial how to use this app, so you guys don't have any questions at the end of the day, but it looks like you guys usually skip the stuff, so I'm not going to be actually doing 100% here, so I'm not going to be wasting so much time. So yes, you can actually control this light separate, individual. You know, if you put one more of these lights or any other lights, you can actually control, you can do whatever you want. So here's a CCT from 0 to 100%. Notice the minus and plus, you can actually fine tuning 2%, 3%, 5%. Color temperature from 2800 Kelvin 10,000 degrees Kelvin, and again you can actually find tune with this thing here. And also the green magenta correction, which is going to be turn the light green or magenta to whatever suits your taste. And here we have the HSI, which is self-explanatory, and also the RGBWW. You can choose either one of the colors here separate, and the effects, which are many, from lightning to police and everything else. You have the frequency here on the bottom that tells you how fast you want the effects to go, and also the intensity of the effect. So I'm going to show you guys here one single effect, the police light. You have the frequency all the way to very slow, to somewhere in the middle, all the way to very fast, and your intensity according to whatever exposure that you need. On HSI, you can actually tune all the colors that you want. Of course, when you actually bring it to the center, you are desaturating the light, but the lights are actually coming from the CCT LEDs here. It's not that weird pink magenta, because this is actually a RGBWW light. And you can also input the values here manually. For example, the hue you can actually set to 240, which gives you a blue, right? Or the saturation from 100% to like whatever, 54%, confirm. Here's your saturation right there. When you put in the green, saturation 41%, and here's your saturation there. So it's pretty simple and very useful as well. Next thing that I'm gonna do here is to test to find any color fringing, and there is a little bit going on the edge of the reflector, as you can see. So a little bit of a yellowish thing going on there, but just on the very edge. When you switch to the HSI, let's see what happens. It's actually more present here. It looks like on the warmer side of the CCT, that's when the fringing is more present. Now without the reflector, it's still a little bit present there, as you can see. Right now I have the light placed about 5 to 6 feet away from that projection screen, and there is some little gentle hot spot in there, as you can see, but nothing too crazy, but there is a little bit of a hot spot there. And of course, when you actually use a reflector, you're going to see a hot spot in the center there. Some people actually think it is a bad thing. I think a reflector is supposed to be directing light, and most reflectors that I've seen, it reflects this hot spot there. That also depends on the brand or the manufacturer, whoever makes this reflector, and also how the type of the reflector is. There are some high-end reflectors that reflect a lot of light. One of those reflectors that has a big little squares inside, right? This one here is a normal one, but what I found useful, especially when you're shooting somebody or something at a distance, that hot spot with this light placed about 45 feet away, it's going to actually light up the subject perfectly, and everything else in between here is going to light a little bit of the trees or whatever, but the focus, for example, if you want to shoot a bride or a couple at a distance, that hot spot is going to be pointing exactly on their bodies there, so it concentrates the light there. So you actually have more light control. So this to me here is not a big deal. If you want to diffuse that reflector, just put a little piece of sock here, those socks for reflectors, and that should take care of the problem. And right now I have the P100 in front of me with the SUTEFOTO softbox about 50%. It looks like this here. Just with the light, and you can actually have a little feel. There you go. Or just the light itself. And over here is the green magenta correction, all the way to green, all the way to magenta. Go back to the center here. You can do slight increments like this here, so it looks as such. And the actual color temperature, exposure wise, it keeps you almost in the same exposure, so all the way down to 2800 degrees Kelvin. I'm gonna ramping it up. Should look almost the same. Only when you go above 7500, it drops a little bit, about 8000 to 10,000. See, it drops slightly. But anywhere here from 5600 degrees Kelvin to 2800 degrees Kelvin, the exposure is almost the same, which is great. And if you want to purchase this light using my Amazon or B&H affiliated links, I would appreciate it. All you do is help the channel, and the price of this light is the same. It doesn't affect any cost of the light. All I receive here is a tiny little commission, and again, it helps the channel. And that's the end of my review. I hope this content was useful to you. If you have any questions at all, please drop them down in the comment section there. I'll respond to everything that I see. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.